Hi friends, it's Deanna Williston with our Blooming Catholic Life, and I'm here today with a movie review on Cabrini, but not that Cabrini. So if you want a movie review for the Cabrini that's out in theaters right now, cinematography, if that's a word, beautiful filmmaking, beautiful acting, music is amazing, and you get the strength of Mother Cabrini and her mission. What you don't get, however, is her heart and soul aren't quite in that movie. And so I have reviewed for you one of my favorite film producers' version of the Cabrini story. It's called Super Saints. It is episode, I believe, 155 on Francis Xavier Cabrini. If you aren't familiar with Super Saints, it is a production that was done by Bob and Penny Lord. They are my favorite hagiographers. Is that word? They are just, I love them so much. They're both passed away now, so we'll say, may they rest in peace and eternal light shine upon them, O Lord. It's like going to your grandparents. Okay, I'm Gen X, so it's like going to your grandparents' house and they get out the slide projectors to tell you about their most beloved friends that they just came back and visited. That may not appeal to some people, may not be your cup of tea, but I love it. It's so personal. It really is like your grandparents just telling you about, like, they just went and visited your beloved cousin, and here is some about her. So they start out telling you about her nickname, and there's a legend about doves appearing at her birth. They talk to you about her sister and how her sister was a teacher and she idolized that sister. It talks about how she got communion early, as did Saint Lucia of Fatima. So she got First Communion early. She was able to receive it at 9. I think you had to be 10 at the time. And talks about an early vow of virginity and how much the people of China were so much on her heart. It's barely touched on in the movie, but that's what those little paper boats are about that she's always sending. The violets that she puts in, the little tiny violets, are the missionaries, and she's sending them off in boats to China and praying for them as they go. And that is a theme that comes back and back in her life, both about sending out missionaries and about the little tiny sweet violets. And they weave that in throughout this story. Talks about her getting her teaching certificate, which she did apparently have before she entered the convent, I think. The smallpox epidemic, her first founding of an orphanage, and how that happened. They already have one by the time we meet them in the movie, so that background isn't given in the movie. You're going to watch Super Saints to find out about that. It's not talked about exactly what happened with her in the order, why she was such a young mother of an order. There is a great story there as well, and how they ended up in an old convent in New York. So they were actually given things in New York. Things were set up more than the movie portrays too. And that they had even in, oh no, this is actually still in Italy. So even in Italy, they were given, when she had the new order, and I won't tell you how she got to the new order, they were given an old convent that was considered a fixer-upper of sorts. And they had a series of houses and orphanage that they founded. And they gave a lot of vocational encouragement to the local. Actually, I have no idea what this knows. Vocational encouragement. I do believe that she got that, but she gave it as well. Whenever they started orphanages, I do believe they gave those orphans vocational skills as well as a solid education, as well as encouraging those in their vocation and in her vocation. The bishop and Pope Leo XIII are in the movie, but not really, their story isn't fully explained and where their heart was either. So that is a great thing to watch. And the really great moment there that I think the movie does capture is Mother Cabrini's obedience. That's something that we struggle with in this day and age, and something that I think the movie liked to play up her defiance as a strong woman. It was released on International Women's Day, and that was the angle to get people to go. And there is some merit in that, but it takes strength sometimes to be obedient, even when it's not really what your heart wants. She's done all this background work. She's sure that she's ready for this mission to China, but that's not where she's going. She's going out of obedience. And it did say that the girls that she encountered when she first got to New York, that's explained a little differently. It wasn't a lady of the night, but it was girls from the local candy factory. And the story of what the candy factory is and what that meant to Italian immigrants is absolutely worth watching. We're in a moment in time now where immigration is a big conversation, not just in the USA, across the world. Immigration is a huge conversation. So it's interesting to look at how it was handled in the past, both from the countries where people went to and the places people came from and their faith tradition, how all that intersected in the story of Mother Cabrini. So one of the great things about Mother Cabrini is that she would, although most of the social systems turned the young ladies out at 14 to fend for themselves, Mother Cabrini kept them until they were 18. That was a big deal back then. And again, she taught them vocational skills. There are so many other great stories that were not captured in the Cabrini movie because it was just a moment when she came to New York and first started in New York. So it wasn't what she'd done in Italy before, really, and it really wasn't focused on her missionary work afterwards. They give you a big map at the end and kind of show you that. They also go into a lot more detail about the house on the Hudson that you're going to enjoy. But the show then takes you to so many stories, and everybody acts like these are stories that they knew Mother Cabrini and she told them. I don't know that any of the people in the videos, except one, there is a tiny nun who did know Mother Cabrini and tells some of her stories. But everybody tells these stories as if Mother Cabrini was their own mother or their own sister or their own best friend. And that is a part of the charm. As Bob and Penny Lord go around the world to these various sites and show you what those locations look like, they speak to the people there. It's also very interesting to note the different nuns. They're kind of layered in different spaces of time. So they're talking to nuns, all of Mother Cabrini's order, but some of them are in, the frumpy 80s nun clothes. Some are in full habit. You're never sure what you're going to get from the nuns in the order. There's quite a variety there, and that's something to look at as well. We've been talking so much about the secular Franciscan order and the different movements within that, and I think every order kind of has those movements, and we can study them historically to see what has happened, what is happening now. So some of the great stories they talk about is Mother Cabrini going over the Andes Mountains on a mule. And why did she do it? And it's a beautiful story. You're not going to see this one coming. Why did she do it? She did prison work in New Orleans. What does that mean? I want you to get out and watch. I love how I'm trying to give you just enough to tantalize you into the story, but I don't want to give it away to you. It is on DWTN. I've put it in my playlist as well. I'm going to put this in movie reviews, and I think the link is there. I'm going to post it. I'll link it, the movie, as well in the description for this video. It talks to you about her cause for sainthood opening early. Remember how she got her first communion early? Her cause for sainthood was opened only around 11 years after she passed away. And the norm at that time was you were supposed to wait 50 years. So 11 years is a lot shorter. And the video also just talks about so much how we need more brides of Christ and the great work that was done by Mother Cabrini and her sisters. I cannot begin to recommend this enough. Whether you've seen Cabrini or not, it is a great companion, a great introduction, a great follow-up, a great standalone. Again, the video quality is much lower. They look like home movies from the 80s or 90s, exactly as you would expect them to be. But it's two dear, devout souls sharing their hearts with you as they interact with people who knew Mother Cabrini or know of her or are in charge of her archives, are in her order, living her mission, living her charism. It's just such a beautiful story, and I want you to hear more of the story. So I'm going to ask you to get out there and watch Bob and Penny Lord's It's Super Saints, episode 155, Francis Xavier Cabrini. You're going to fall in love with Mother ever more deeply, and hopefully you're going to be fired up to pray for vocations. Donate to those missions that are really making a difference. It may perhaps give you some new ideas on how to handle immigration. What are good ways? What are bad ways? And what we can truly do to help immigrants around the world. It may give you some differing views about Catholic hospitals. Now it's seen as such a negative because they won't perform abortions or gender surgeries, because those things are horrific. I give them credit. And so many people are like, well, Catholic hospitals won't do that. Y'all, Catholic hospitals are the original. Like so much of our medical care today in America, at least, and I do think around the world, we owe to Mother Cabrini and her sisters. And so if you've ever benefited from a Catholic hospital or a hospital in the U.S., you may want to go and watch this episode. It's not terribly long. It's probably about an hour. Again, it's lovely. It's just like sitting down with family and talking about another beloved family member who has passed. It's a beautiful time. I'm going to encourage you to get out there, friends. May God bless you and keep you. May He make His face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the good Lord bless you. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen.